Hey mathematics learners, welcome to Distance Learning with Lee, where I make learning mathematics super easy. So on today's video tutorial, guys, we're going to be having a look at the last question from the grade 12 Mathematical Literacy Paper 2 that was written in November 2022. And in this video tutorial, guys, we're going to be having a look at the whole of question 5. Okay, so in question 5, we're going to be tackling question 5.1, where in question 5.1, guys, we are just going to be using the road infographic that is given to us in annexure E to answer the questions that are given to us here. We're also going to be having a look at question 5.2, where we're just going to also be interpreting the information that is given to us here about the volcanic eruption, as well as the earthquake that happened on different dates, right? In question 5.3, guys, we are going to be converting from feet to minutes. We are going to be simplifying ratios, right? And we're also going to be calculating a percentage discount. In question 5.4, guys, we are going to be calculating the speed that the train traveled in kilometers per hour from Hiroshima to Tokyo. Okay, so that is all that we are going to be tackling in this last question. So before we get started, guys, with today's video tutorial, please make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. Please make sure that you click on that notification bell so that you get notified every single time I upload a new video tutorial, guys. And also, please don't forget to give this video tutorial a huge thumbs up, because that really helps the channel grow and it helps the channel to reach more learners that want to better their mathematics marks, guys. Also, guys, if you want to be a member of the channel, right, and you really want to support the channel in terms of helping it grow and improving the channel's quality, please consider being a part of the Maths Gang fam. Okay, so without any further ado, guys, let's get started with today's video tutorial. So like I mentioned, we're going to be having a look at question 5.1, question 5.2, question 5.3, and question 5.4, right? In this video tutorial, and we're going to be basically finalizing the mathematical literacy grade 12 November 2022 paper 2. Okay, so let's get started. Question 5.1, it says that Danny and Susan are on their way to visit some of the tourist locations in Japan. Annexure E shows a road infographic of their planned tour with the various tourist locations that would be visited. Use the information above and annexure E to answer the questions that follow. Okay, so before you even have a look at what's going on here, right, let's just see what is actually given to us here in this road infographic. So from what we can see here, guys, right, this road infographic basically shows the tourists, the different areas or destinations that they'll be going to. Okay, so we see there's point 1, there's point 2, something is happening. Point 3, they're going to be seeing a particular mountain. At point 4, they're going to be going to that place there. At point 5, they're going to be going to that place there. And at point 6, that is what they're going to be doing, right? So now with this question, what we basically need to figure out, okay, is that we need to determine what actually happens at all these different locations, okay, by using the information or the details that are given to us here, right? So let's have a look. Question 5.1, it says the tourist location details in random order for the tour are given below. Okay, so they say that A, it starts in Tokyo, right? B, visit Mount Fuji, right? So what's important is that you note that the order that is given here is in random order. It's not in the order that is basically occurring in our annexure E. So you need to take note of that, okay? So B, visit Mount Fuji. C, visit the world's largest aquarium to see the different types of fish in Osaka. D, at Nara, they plan to visit the large wooden temple and the deer park. E, the trip will end at at Itsukushima, which is known for the Great Torii Gate that is standing in the water at high tide, and that if drive through Kamakura at a speed not exceeding 40 kilometers per hour. Okay, so with this question, all that we need to do is we need to complete the table below by inserting the tourist location details in the correct order. Okay, so we see with this table, right, they've already filled in A for us. The first location for us and the last location. Okay, so we can see that we don't have to worry about A anymore because that is filled in for us, and E. So we can just scratch that out. We're not going to be focusing on those details because they've already filled those in for us. All that we need to do now is determine what is happening at point 2, what is happening at point 3, what is happening at point 4, and what is happening at point 5. Okay, so let's see what is actually happening. So we already know that at some point we are visiting Mount Fuji. So when they talk about a Mount Fuji, they talk about a mountain. So we're going to note that. Okay, at point C, we're going to visit an aquarium. So we see that where we see fish, that's basically where that's going to be our point C. Né? And then at point D, that is the large wooden temple. So we're going to look for a temple or probably a deer park. We'll see. And at point F, we're going to drive through Kamakura at a speed not exceeding 40 kilometers an hour. So even though we don't know what Kamakura is, but then from the image, we're going to see if there's anything that tells us about 40 kilometers an hour. Okay, so let's see. At point 2, guys, what is happening? Oh, we actually realize at point 2, okay, we don't know what's happening there, but we've got something that says 40 kilometers an hour. That sign is 40 kilometers an hour. Okay, so we can see that, oh, okay, that means that at point 2, that is our drive through Kamakura at a speed not exceeding 40 kilometers an hour. So from there, we can already see that 2 is F. Okay, so we are done with that. Okay, so we're done with our F, so we can cross that out. So we've already completed number 1, we've completed number 2. What is happening at number 3? So we see with number 3, it's a mountain, right? So we're going to look for something that talks about a mountain or visiting a mountain. Oh, there we see we visit Mount Fuji. Okay, so we see that at number 3, that is going to be our B. Okay, so we're done with that. Okay, then what happens at number 4? Okay, at number 4, okay, we see that it looks like, some temple of some sort, some house of some sort. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so we're only left with basically 2 options. Okay, so we can't say number 4 is us visiting the largest aquarium because some person might not. Because some person might not see that, because we don't stay in Japan, so we don't know if that is a temple or if that is a house or if that is what, right? So with these last options that are basically left with us, we basically can just use the process of elimination. Okay, we can see that number 4 is definitely not an aquarium, guys. Okay, an aquarium is a place that you go to see different types of fish. Okay, so we can see that number 4 is definitely not that. Okay, but the C is for number 5. So with number 4, it'll be the last option that is given to us. Okay, so with number C, we know number C is 5. Okay, because we see that at number C, we see some fish going on there. We see fish. Okay, so that it indicates that you're going to see going to an aquarium. And at number 4, then that means that will be the last option that is given to us here. Okay, which is at Nara, they plan to visit the large wooden temple and the deer park. So that is the large wooden temple. Okay, so that is basically how you can answer these type of questions, especially when it comes to things that you don't know. Just try to identify, landmarks that you could landmarks that you definitely show off, because you can see that that is definitely a mountain. You can definitely see that that is an aquarium. Okay, here you were able to definitely see that that is where you are not supposed to exceed a speed of 40 kilometers an hour. So from there, just using process of elimination, you'll be able to determine what point 4 is there. Okay, so I hope it's nice and easy, nice and simple question to just get you in the right mood for question 5. Okay, so that is it for question 5.1. I'm just going to write that on the next page, and when we are going to continue with question 5.2. Right, so those are the solutions for question 5.1, and that is how they would mark that question. Let us go on to question 5.2. Okay, so in question 5.2, it says Mount Fuji is an active volcano, right? The last volcanic eruption was on the 16th of December 1707, and it followed several weeks after an earthquake on the 11th of November 1707. Okay, question 5.2.1, calculate how many decades ago Mount Fuji erupted. Okay, so we want to basically determine how many decades ago, okay, did Mount Fuji erupt. So you need to take into consideration that this paper is written in 2022. Okay, so when we doing our calculations here, we need to use 2022 as our reference here. Okay, so what we need to do here is that we're going to basically take the year 2022, and then we're going to subtract it from the year 1707, because we are told that Mount Fuji, okay, erupted on the year 1707. All right, so we're going to basically minus and determine how many years ago did this volcano erupt. Okay, so let's just work from there, and then I'm going to build to how we're going to get our answer, taking into consideration that they want how many decades ago, right? Because we know when we're talking about a decade, we're talking about a decade is actually equal to 10 years. Okay, so have that in mind as we basically build up this solution. Okay, so let's just get started. Also, someone said I need to be a bit slower in my solutions. So I think my pace is a bit slow in this video tutorial, guys. So if that person is here, please let me know. How am I doing in today's video tutorial? Am I working at a pace that is okay for you? Just let me know down in the comment section. Okay, so we're gonna start with, this is question 5.2.1. Okay, so we know that we are in the year 2022. Please, guys, I know someone is gonna say, ma'am, we are not in the year 2022. Guys, we're working with the past paper from 2022. Okay, so we're gonna using that year as our reference point. Okay, right, so it's 2022, and then we're gonna minus the year in which the volcano erupted. Okay, so the volcano erupted in the year 1707. So we want to determine how many years ago did this volcano erupt. Okay, and if you basically take 2022 and you minus 1707, right, you'll find that this volcano erupted 315 years ago. However, right, this question is not asking us how many years ago did this volcano erupt. It wants us to determine how many decades ago, right? So what is gonna help us now determine how many decades ago is 315 years, right? We already know that one decade is equivalent to how many years? It's equivalent to 10 years. Decade. When you think of a decagon has how many sides? 10 sides. Okay, so that'll help you basically figure out how many years we're dealing with here. Okay, so deca is 10, right? So we're dealing with 10 years. Okay, so now we want to convert these years into decades. How do we do that? If you just use the approach that I always highlight in my channel, what you want, what you have, you should be okay with converting these years into decades. Okay, all that we do, we've got 315 years. Okay, you want to convert it into decades, you multiply by what you want. We want our units in decades, which is 1 decade, right? And you divide by what you have, which is our units in years. Okay, we've got our units in years. What do you notice is happening here, guys, right? Okay, this is the same as just saying 315 divided by 1. We see that the years and the years cancel, okay, leaving you with the units that this question wants your answer in, which is decade. Okay, so this is the same as just saying 315 divided by 10. Okay. Okay, if you punch that into your calculator. Okay, so what do we see here? If you take 315 and you divide by 10, how many decades ago did this volcano erupt? You'll see that this volcano erupted 31.5 decades ago. All right. Okay. So that is how you need to basically approach this question, guys. Okay. Please note, guys, I go into detail with my explanations because I mean the main slogan of this channel is mathematics made super easy. Okay. So you need to see how we got to 315 divided by 10. But there's a learner out there that could see that, okay, you can just take the 315 and then you divide by 10 because 1 decade is equal to 10 years. But then there's also another learner in this channel that doesn't see where that comes from. That is why I go into the details and show you how you can look at it from a perspective that makes things super easy for you guys. Okay, so that is how you basically will get the answer there. So the first mark will come from you doing 2022 minus 1707 to get your 315. The second mark goes to you taking 315 divided by 10, and your final mark goes to you showing the decades, that is 31.5 decades ago. All right, cool stuff. Let's have a look at the next question. Question 5.2. Guys, please forgive me if there's a sound, an annoying sound at the back. Yeah, like that's just the disadvantage with recording videos in the afternoon is that things happen. People are busy, and I really apologize for that. Okay. So question 5.2.2, write down the total number of days between the earthquake and the last volcanic eruption. Okay. So we given 2 dates here, right? If you guys basically look properly, right? One date basically indicates when the volcano erupted, okay, which was the 16th of December, 1707. The other date tells us about the earthquake that occurred, right? And it is the 11th of November, 1707, right? So it says we need to write down the total number of days between the earthquake and the last volcanic eruption. Okay, so we were told that firstly, okay, the earthquake occurred on the 11th of November, 1707, right? And then a number of days passed, right? And then we had a volcanic eruption on the 16th of December, 1707. And we now want to determine those days between the earthquake and the volcanic eruption. Okay, so what's important here is that, okay, you need to be able to, with these questions, and I'm going to give you guys a tip on what you guys can do to help you determine what's the last day of each month. But I think at this stage, you guys should know that you can use your knuckles. Okay, I'm going to put a picture of what I mean when I talk about knuckles here, right? To help you determine what is the last day of each month. What is the last day of January, right? Is it the 30th or is it the 31st? What is the last day of February? Okay, with February, guys, we already know that depends, okay, depending on whether it's a leap year or not, okay? But we know that usually the last day of February is on the 28th, if it's not a leap year, okay? What is the last day of March? Is it the 30th or the 31st, okay? You can just use your knuckles to determine what is the last day, okay, of the month. In January, the last day is on the 31st, okay, because it's on the top, on your top knuckle. It's on your the highest, your knuckle, right? And then on February, the last day is on the 28th, okay, because it's there at that bottom part there, okay? March is on the top part, so it's going to be 31st. So that'll help you determine what is the last day of the month, okay? Because they love these questions where you need to determine how many days are between and something like that. So I think the knuckle tip will come in handy. Okay, so from there, from using our knuckles, okay, you can see that the last day of the month for November, right, is the 30th. That is the last day for November. Okay, so if you take that 30 and you minus it with 11, you'll find how many days are between the 11th of November until the 30th of November, right? So if you take, okay, so if you basically take your 30 minus 11, you'll find that there are actually 19 days between the 11th, or from the 11th to the 30th of November. Okay, right. So we're going to take those 19 days and then we're going to plus, right? So now we need to basically determine how many days do we move from the 1st of December, until, we don't count until the 16th of December, because on the 16th of December, that is when the volcano erupted. Okay, but we want to determine the total number of days between the earthquake and the last volcanic eruption. So we need to determine the day before that happened, the volcanic eruption happened, which was the 15th. Okay, so we need to now add these 15 days, okay, to basically determine the days between those two events. Okay, so if you take 19 days plus 15 days, you will get that it was 35 days between those two events. Okay, so that's what's very important, or what's important for you to know them. Okay, how will they quickly mark this? You'll just get an 1 mark for you, showing that you understood that it's supposed to be 19 days in November plus the 15 days in December, and your final answer for your final answer, for your final mark for your final answer of 35 days. Okay, so we are basically done with question 5.1 as well as question 5.2. Happiness. Let us have a look at the next question. In question 5.3, guys, I did mention we're going to be doing some conversions here. I did mention we're going to be converting from feet to meters. I did mention that we're going to be simplifying a ratio here. And we're also going to be calculating the percentage discount, or a percentage discount. Okay, so let us get started. All right. So question 5.3 says, in Tokyo, they will visit the Tokyo Tower, which is a communication and observation tower, right? The tower is 1092.19 or 1916 feet tall and has 2 viewing decks. Né? The main deck is 150 meters above the ground, and the top deck is 250 meters above the ground. Some of the ticket prices per person are shown or are as follows. Okay, right. So these are the Tokyo Tower viewing decks. All right, and here we basically given information about how much you pay, right, to view from the main deck if you are an adult. So they basically giving us information that if you are 19 years or older, that is how much you pay, 1,200 yen. Okay, so a yen is a currency that they use in Japan, and in Japan, and Tokyo is in Japan, guys, right? So you pay 1,200 yen to view the main deck and to view the top deck, right? If you're an adult, you pay 3,000 yen, and so on and so forth, right? They also give us important information here, right? That if you go as a group and you want to now view the main deck, right? You'll basically, as adults, you'll pay 1,080 yen. And for a high school, learners that are in high school, they'll pay 900 yen, okay? And then, so if you go as a group that is between 20 people or more, but less than 50, right? That is how much you'll pay. All right. And then we're also given information about how much you'd pay if you go as a group, right, of people that are 50 people or more, right? If you're an adult, you'd pay 960 yen. If you're a high school pupil, you'd pay 800 yen. Okay, so we're going to use this information to now answer these questions that are given to us here. All right, So it says use the information above to answer the questions that follow. Question 5.3.1. Write in simplified form the ratio of the height above the ground of the main deck to the top deck, right? So here, guys, really, I've been saying that when you're looking at these ratio questions, all right, the question guides you on exactly what you need to do, okay? So you don't have to panic. The question tells you exactly what you need to do. All that you need to do is you need to follow those instructions, okay? And you should be fine. Okay, so it says we need to write the ratio in simplified form. So we already know that, and they want it in simplified form. We already know that to start off a ratio, it needs to be 1 is to something, okay? Okay, of the height above the ground of the main deck to the top deck, right? So we want to look at the information that is given to us, and we want to now extract from that information that tells us about the height of the main deck. And you see that the height of the main deck is 150 meters above the ground, and we're told that the height of the top deck, right, is 250 meters. So we're gonna literally put that information on our paper the way that it is. Okay, the main deck to the top deck. Okay, so we want the height of the main deck, right? The ratio of the main deck to the top deck, right? Literally write it like that. Okay, what was the height of the main deck, right? We're told that it's 250 meters above the ground, and the main deck, the height of the main deck is 150 meters. Okay, so it's 150 meters. And what was the height of the top deck? It is 250 meters. Okay, so that is our starting point. Okay, and now remember, they said they wanted the ratio in simplified form. Okay, and to get the ratio in simplified form, right, we know that, okay, it needs to be 1 is to something. Okay, so to get 1 is to something, that means that we need to now divide the left hand side by 150. And what you do on the left, you need to do on the right. So we're going to divide by 150 meters. And if you divide by 150 meters on the left-hand side, it's also divide by 150 meters on the right-hand side. So by us dividing by 150 meters on the left-hand side, what do we notice? 150 meters divided by 150 meters is not 0. It is 1, right? 1 is 2. 250 meters divided by 150 meters. What happens here? Meters cancel, right? And 250 divided by 150. If you punch that into your calculator, right, you will get 5 over 3. Okay, however, guys, remember, we want it in simplified form, so we can't leave our ratio like this. Okay, 5 over 3, right? So you can just multiply by that denominator there, because we don't want a denominator, right? We want want it to be in the most simplified form, right? So you're gonna multiply by 3 on the right hand side, and what you do on the right hand side, you need to do on the left hand side. Therefore, the ratio of the height of the main deck to the height of the top deck in simplified form, 3 times 1 is 3 is 2. Okay, what happens here? Okay, your 3 and your 3 cancel. Therefore, your final answer will just be 5. Okay, so that is basically what they want when they say that you need to write the ratio in simplified form. Okay, so I'm not going to give you an alternative to this answer, because I'm realizing that some people are getting a bit confused, okay, when I give alternatives. Okay, so I'll just leave it like this. Okay, and that is basically your answer. Okay, how will they quickly mark this one? Right, you'll just get a mark for writing the 150 is to 250, right? You'll get a final mark for writing that 3 is to 5. Okay, so you'll get the 2 marks like that. All right, let us have a look at the next question. 5.3.2, convert in meters the height of the tower if 1 meter is equal to 3.281 feet. So we are already given an equation that we're supposed to use to convert the height of the tower from feet to meters, right? So I'm going to write that down. Okay, So that is the equation that we're going to use to help us convert now the height of the tower from feet to meters. Okay, so what is the height of our tower, right? So here we're given information about the height, and we're told that now the tower is 1092.1916 feet tall. Okay, so now we want to convert these units of feet to meters, right? So this should be a breeze, honestly speaking. If you're a day one in the channel, right? We want to convert from feet to meters. What do we do, right? You simply multiply by what you want and you divide by what you have, right? So in this case, we want our units in meters. So we're going to multiply by what we want, okay? So it's going to be that 1 meter, okay? And then we're going to divide by what we have. What do we have already? On the left-hand side, guys, we have our units in feet. Okay, so in this case, we're going to divide by what we have, which is our feet. Okay, so it's 3.281 feet. Okay, ft is the same as feet, right? Okay, and then what do we notice here? The unit for feet cancel, right? And you will just be left in the units in meters. All right, so if you punch that into your calculator, that is the same as just saying 1092.1916 divided by 3.281. Okay, all right. Okay, if you punch that into your calculator, you'll get an answer of 332.883755 meters. Okay, and that is just approximately equal to 332.88 meters if you round it off to 2 decimal places. Okay, right. Also, guys, let me know, how was the first paper? Did the video tutorials come in handy? How did you find your taxation questions in your exams? Please let me know down below. Okay, so we're basically done with question 5.3.2, right? And that is basically the height of the tower in meters. Okay, quickly, how would they mark this one? You'll just get a mark for showing that you understand that you need to divide by 3.281. Okay, and you get a final mark for your final answer that you've basically rounded off. Okay, so that's how you get your 2 marks here. Cool stuff. Let us go continue. Let's have a look at question 5.3.3. Danny stated that if there had been in a group of 60 people observing from the main deck, they could have received 30% discount on an adult ticket. Verify whether his statement is correct, showing all calculations. Okay, so now Danny is saying that if they went as a group, okay, of 60 people to the tower, right, and they basically viewed from the main deck, right, they could have basically received 30% discount on an adult ticket. So now we need to now verify whether his statement is correct. Okay, so now how can we verify whether his statement is correct? Okay, so what we're going to do with this question, right, we're going to start off by determining how much a person actually pays, right, if they go as a group. Okay, so in this case, we already know that they're going as a group of 60 people. So now we need to determine from the information that is given to us in this table, right, how much an individual person would pay, right, if they go as a group of 60 people. Okay, so in this case here, we can't use this part to help us calculate, because with this part, right, it's for a group of people that are 20 people or more but less than 50. Okay, so we're not going to be focusing on the prices on this category. Okay, but we're going to focus on the category, okay, that talks about a group of 50 people or more. So this is where we are, right? Next part, are we looking at the adults or are we looking at the high school price range? Okay, the information tells us that if 60 people observing from the main deck, right, if they had an adult ticket, so we're just going to be focusing on the adult ticket here, right? So we see that if you basically observing from the main deck, you're an adult and you're traveling as a group of 60 people, an adult pays 960 yen. Okay. So if you go as a group of 60 people, right? One adult will pay 960 yen, right? However, when you're going individually, right? How much would you pay? Because he now wants to check, are you getting a discount if you're actually going a group? Do you pay less if you go as a group as opposed to going alone, right? So how much does one person pay if you're going individually, right? Here we're given information about how much you pay, right? If you're viewing the main deck or the top deck individually, right? And we see that here, if you're going individually, you pay 1,200 yen, okay, for an adult ticket. So individually, okay, one adult pays 1,200 yen, right? So now we want to basically check what is the percentage discount here, right? Okay, how do you determine the percentage discount, guys, right? You basically, firstly, to just help you understand the concept, right? How much would you save if you basically decided to go as a group? Okay, we basically see that if you basically decided to go as a group, right? If you take that 1,200 and you minus 960, right? You would actually save 240 yen, okay, if you now basically decided that you wanted to grow as a group, right? So what we now want to do is we want to determine how much percentage is this 240 when you compare it to the total price if you decide to go individually. Okay, so in this case, when you're calculating percentage discount, I'm just going to do it on this side. Okay, percentage discount, okay, is equal to the discount amount that you would have basically received divided by the original amount. Okay, what is the original amount when you decide to go alone? Multiplied by 100, because you want the percentage discount, right? You want the percentage. That is why we multiply by 100. Okay, so if you decide to go alone, so if you decide to go as a group, we see that you would actually be saving 240, okay, right? Divided by, what is the original amount? It's 1,200 multiplied by 100. Okay, so that is how we're going to determine the percentage of the amount you would save if you basically decided to go as a group. So if you punch that into your calculator, you'll find that if you go as a group, you basically pay 20% less, okay, from what you would pay if you decided to go individually. Now, so we've basically done the calculations. So now we need to verify whether his statement was correct. Remember, with his statement, he said that they could have received 30% discount, not 20% discount. Okay, so what do we confirm here, right? We can just confirm that therefore his statement is incorrect. Okay, all right, and that is basically your final answer. Cool stuff. Now let us have a look at question 5.4. All right, in question 5.4, we got told that on their return journey, okay, so now they're basically returning, okay, Danny and Susan, right, took a train from Hiroshima to Tokyo, okay. We're told that the train left Hiroshima station at 8:06. That is the time that the train left the station, right? And we're told that it stopped at 8 stations, right? En route, okay, so along the way, it stopped at 8 stations for 4 minutes at a time. So at one station, it stopped 4 minutes. At the other station, it stopped 4 minutes. So at every station, the train stopped for 4 minutes, right? And we told that now the train reached Tokyo at 12:03. Okay, the distance the train traveled is 816 kilometers. Calculate the average speed at which the train traveled. Okay, so here with this question, guys, you need to be very careful. Okay, right? You need to take into consideration that even though we are told what time the train left Hiroshima and what time the train left or arrived or reached Tokyo, right? You can't just be like, okay, that just means that the train traveled approximately 4 hours. No, you can't just say that. Or just be like, okay, it's 12:03, and then I need to basically determine how many hours are between these two time intervals, and then that's basically the time. And then from there, I can just take this distance and divide it by that time to get the total speed. No, guys, you can't do that, okay? Because we were told that during that time, okay, the train actually stopped. Okay, so we can't now include the stopping time or the time that the train has stopped when we're calculating our speed. Okay, because that's gonna basically affect our results. Our results are going to be inaccurate. It's not going to give us a proper indication of the time or how many kilometers the train traveled per hour. Okay, so that means that we need to now determine if the train left at 8:06. So this is just additional information. So we need to determine if the train left, right, at 8:06, right, and it stopped at 8 places. So stopped at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 places. And at all of these 8 places, right, it stopped for 4 minutes each. Okay, it stopped for 4 minutes at each of these places and only reached Tokyo at 12:03. So we need to now determine what is that stopping time. Okay, what is the total time that the train spent stopping? Okay, so if you basically take 4 minutes and you multiply that by 8, you'll find roughly the how many minutes the train spent stopping, right? So if you take 4 minutes and you multiply it by 8, you'll find that, oh, actually this train actually stopped for 32 minutes. All right, and now we need to subtract these 32 minutes from the time that we will basically get. So now how do you determine the time between the number of hours between 8:06 and 12:03? I already mentioned this. If you've been watching my video tutorials from the first video tutorial that I posted from this paper, is that you can't just take 12:03 minus 8:06 to determine the time, guys, right? So you need to think of it logically, right? So a way that you can think of the time that it takes or how the hours between 8:06 and 12:03, you can just count in this way, right? So we add 8:06. So you can just say, okay, 9:06, okay, 10:06, 11:06, 12:06. So we can see this is approximately 1, 2, 3, 4 hours, okay, right? However, we didn't reach our destination at 12:06, but we reached it at 12:03. So from this 4 hours, you can just say this is 3 hours and 60 minutes, because we know that 60 minutes is equal to 1 hour. So this is just still the same as saying 4 hours. But from these 60 minutes, we still need to minus 3 minutes because we don't reach the destination at 12:06, but at 12:03. That is why I'm minusing the 3 minutes from the 60 minutes. So if you take 60 minutes and you minus 3 minutes, right, you will get 57 minutes. Okay, so that means that, okay, the traveling time, okay, time spent traveling was equal to 3 hours and 57 minutes, right? However, we can't use this time to basically determine the speed of the train, because why? There were periods where the train actually stopped, right? So we need to now subtract this stopping time from the traveling time to determine the total time that now the train spent moving. Okay, so we're going to take the total time, therefore the total time the train, okay, is equal to the traveling time of 3 hours and 57 minutes minus the stopping time, which is 32 minutes, right? Okay, so here we can just minus this 32 from this 57, okay? So that means that actually the total time that the train spent moving, right? If you take 57 minus 32 minutes, okay, is actually 32 hours and 25 minutes. Okay, so now this is the time that we're supposed to now use to help us calculate the speed of this train. Okay, so I hope that is clarified for you guys. I clarified that one for you guys. Okay, so now what do we know? For us to basically determine the speed that the train travels, we are given the equation that we're supposed to use. The equation is distance is equals to speed multiplied by time. So we're going to write that equation down. Okay. However, guys, we are looking for the speed, right? That means that we need to isolate the speed on the right hand side, right? Because that is what we're trying to determine. So to isolate the speed on the right hand side, all we need to do is we can just divide each side by time. Okay, if we divide by time on the right hand side, need to divide by time on the left hand side, right? Therefore, we see that by dividing by time, speed will be isolated on the right hand side. Therefore, to get our speed, what do we need to do? Speed is equal to the distance divided by your time. Okay, but when you're calculating the speed or you want to determine what is the speed that the train is traveling, if I can just bring it back to for you guys to determine, am I going to use meters per second? Am I going to use kilometers per hour? The odometer of a car, it gives you the speed that you would travel per hour, right? So when we have our units for speed, those units need to be in kilometers per hour, okay? So in this case, we already know what the distance of the distance that the train traveled, right? Because that was given to us as 816 kilometers, right? We already have the distance in kilometers. So we're going to write it as 816 kilometers. However, we need to have our time in hours because we already know that, right? From what we know was the odometer that I've just made reference to, it's in kilometers per hour. So if you want to basically determine the speed that the train is traveling, just write it in kilometers per hour. Okay. But now the issue here is that the time that we have here is in hours and minutes. So we need to now, before we substitute this time into our equation, we need to convert those minutes into time. Okay, so I'm just going to do an additional calculation here at the bottom. The hours are fine. This 3 hour is fine. We're not going to touch it. We're just going to convert these 25 minutes into hours. And then we're going to add that together to get what the final answer is. Okay, all right. So we already know that, okay, 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes. Okay, right? So we want to convert these minutes into hours, right? So remember, guys, we're going to take that 25 minutes, all right? And we're going to use this equation to help us convert these minutes into hours, multiplied by what you want, divide by what you have, right? We're going to multiply by what you want, which is our units and hours, and you divide by what you have, which is your units in minutes. What do we see here? The minutes cancel, right? Therefore, the answer that you'll have when you punch these into your calculator will be in hours, right? So you divide by what you have, which is your units in minutes. Okay, so if you punch it into your calculator, 25, this is the same as just saying 25 hours divided by 60, right? That is going to give you 0.41. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours. Okay, so now we've converted the 25 minutes into hours. All that we need to do, we need to add these hours to the 3 hours. Therefore, 3 hours plus 0.41 hours, right? That is equal to hours, okay, which is approximately equal to hours. But remember, guys, the reason why I'm actually writing this number as it is because when you basically doing your calculation, guys, just round off the final answer unless stated otherwise. Okay, so I'm going to keep the answer. I'm going to keep this and I'm going to substitute that into this equation, and then I'll only round off my final answer just to maintain the accuracy. Okay, so now we already have our time in hours, so I'm going to take that time in hours, I'm going to substitute it into this equation. Okay, if you punch it into your calculator, you will find that the speed of this train is actually equal to 238.8292683 kilometers per hour. Now we are safe to round off, right? Our final answer. So that is approximately equal to 238.83 kilometers per hour. So this was now the speed of the train. Okay, and that is it, guys, for today's video tutorial. Okay, so what's important when it comes to this question is that you guys just take note of the time that the train spent not moving, the stopping time. Okay, because we can't now just be like, okay, the train just traveled from this time to that time, and then we punch in that value into the formula to determine the speed, because you'll be like, okay, but I've got my distance, I've got my time, without taking into consideration this stopping time that was given to us. Okay, so that was very important for this question. And I think that is it, guys. We are done with the paper, the grade 12 mathematical literacy paper 2 that was written in November 2022. I hope you guys enjoyed the video tutorials as much as I enjoyed making them for you guys. And all the best, guys, for your exam on Monday. I'll try and see if I can just record the November 2021 paper in one day and just upload that for you for you guys. You'll see with the video tutorials, I'll upload, if I just upload, maybe I'll let you guys know in the community post how that is going, but also just make sure that your notification bells are turned on if you just really want to see how I explain those questions there. All right, and that is it, guys, and I'll see you guys on my next upload. That is it, guys, and I'll see you guys on my next upload, Distance Learning with Lee, where I make learning mathematics super easy. Bye, guys.